So then let's start the session, guys. So, my dears, we are actually in digital business environment. It means information system in digital business environment. As you know, this subject is a very exciting subject as well as very interesting subject. No, and it's very easy to pass if you crack the information and the topics in a good manner. So, welcome to this exciting journey, and we are going to explore about how information systems, information plus systems work in the digital world right now, right? You know, you can think you walk into Kiel supermarket in Colombo or in any metropolitan area, and the moment the cashier scans you a packet of biscuits or some other materials you bought, the barcode, the magic happens in the behind the scenes. Everything is recorded, the stock is up to dated, real time updates, right? So like that, even a person runs a small mobile phone shop in Peta Market or in Candy Market. Every morning, they open their dusty notebook and they write down the sales and everything, right? So nowadays everyone is going to use computer. So as a student, you can ask them, you know, why don't you guys understand the data information system? So the purpose of this session as well as the purpose of the entire subject is you have to understand, right, how a Cargill's food city manager, even a student like you, use the information system in every single day, right? Sometimes we are not even realizing we are using some information systems. We are using our mobile phone and apps and systems, but we don't know we are having interaction with information system. So that's all about this session. And particularly in this ISD subject, information system in digital environment subject, you have 5 chapters. The chapter 1 is all about concepts of information systems and the impact of the information system, right? So I will introduce you the concepts of information systems. What are the information system and what's the impact it created in the modern business? And after that, we will learn about the IT infrastructure, right? Because if we want to do business in any particular country, we need infrastructure. Like we need harbors, we need airports, we need good traveling system, good communication systems, good transportation system. So like that, if we want to create good information systems, we need IT. It means the IT infrastructure, as well as what are the information systems actually in organization. We will learn about MIS, management information system, and EIS, and expert information system. There are a variety of information system we will study in the chapter 3. And chapter 4, it focuses on ethical, social, and legal environment for information system. So when it comes to information system, the hacking and unethical behaviors are common and people are spreading misinformation. So we will learn about the ethical behavior and the social and legal environment for information systems. If there is something goes wrong, so what are the legal actions we can take, right? What are the remedies available for the impacted parties? And the chapter 5 is all about the technology trends impacting on business information systems. This is a very important because the trends are always changing, right? The last year trend is not going to be this year. Even today's what we are learning, it will change on tomorrow's, right? So these are the 5 chapters available for you, and we will understand and we will crack every chapter individually. So we will focus on the chapter 1 today. The learning outcomes of this chapter 1, the concepts of information system and the impact of information system. We have 7 learning outcomes, my dears. The first one is differentiate the data from information. The important word is here differentiate, right? You have to differentiate what is data and what is information. So you will learn about, the data, the definition of the data, characteristic of the data, and the definition of information and characteristics of the information, as well as we will formulate some table to understand the difference between data and information. So that is one of the objective. And the second learning outcome is you have to describe the characteristic of a quality data, right? So if there is a data, they should have some characteristics, right? If it is a quality data, they must possess some characteristics. So we will understand about, some qualities of the data, right? So, we will understand it in later. So you will know, right? And after that, you have to identify the fundamental components of an information system and describe their function. So here the important is components. Component in the sense we can call that this as an element also, right? The parts of the information systems. As well as the fourth learning objective is explain the reason behind the widespread adoption of information systems in organization and impact of information systems. So first thing is why organizations are adapting to new modern information system. You must need the reason as well as what is the impact of these new information systems, what they are creating, right? Because whatever we are doing in the life, it should have some impact, right? So there should be some impact. So you will understand what are the impacts it's having in the organization and why the organizations are choosing the information system. And after that, your learning objectives, you will apply the ICT, information communication technology, to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of business process. As I was teaching in the business management also. Efficiency is we have to achieve our objectiveness, but we have to use the less resources to get the maximum output. That is efficiency. As well as effectiveness in the sense we are not caring about the cost or the resources we are using. We sometimes we can underutilize the resources, sometimes we can overutilize the resources and can incur the most cost. But effectiveness is more about quality, how well you are achieving your objective. So you have to achieve efficiency and effectiveness in the business process. So business process in the sense how you are handling the inventory, that's an inventory process. How you are managing your payroll and making salaries, that is payroll process. So property plan and management process, so there are so much of process in the business. So how we can apply the ICT, information communication and technology, to increase the efficiency and effectiveness in the business or processes. So that's our fifth objective. As well as explain how ICT support the data analysis, a very important topic, right? Using the ICT, information, communication, and technology, how we can analyze the data, how we can make some decision with the good information, and what are the ICT tools are available for analyzing the information. So I will introduce you the softwares and things, the power business intelligent tools, and so many things we will discuss in the data analysis section. As well as the seventh objective is explain the types of information related to an individual's personal life. So we will learn about what are the types available in information, in individual personal life. So it's important personal life because we will learn about, personal information management, right? So these are the learning objectives, my dears. We have to get through with this chapter 1. I think this chapter 1, if I'm not mistaken, it is considering 10% of your syllabus, right? So 10 marks you can definitely expect, right? So let's move to the chapter topics. My dears, I have some analysis, but it's not finalized yet, okay? So each and every topic, I will introduce you to the exam analysis, right? For example, if we are going to learn about data, information, and knowledge, so I have analyzed out of more than 11 exam papers from your existing syllabus, and I have a breakdown for you. So don't worry, I will give you all the PDFs and notes for you to have this analysis with you because we are aiming for more than 90 plus marks. Okay. So we have to go with a very good planning, otherwise, we cannot achieve. So you can see the exam frequency analysis I did 6 times in 11 exams, it is tested. It means the topic data, information, and knowledge, what we are going to learn right now, it's tested 6 times in 11 exams. It means 55 percentage the appearance rate. It means in your exams, the questions related to data, information, and knowledge is the probability is 55 percentage. right? So I have break down the past papers from the July 2025, 24, 22, 22, 21, 20 paper. I have mentioned the actual question numbers also and the marks it's allocated. You can see 3 marks from question 2, 4 marks from question 2A, another question 1.3, 2 marks, AOTQ questions, right? So the question type, like, they will ask the differences between the data and information, or sometimes they will ask what's the meaning of data or explanation, right? What's the meaning of data and information and knowledge, right? As well as in July 2024, also you can understand 4 marks question for differences with examples. You have to differentiate the data and information with examples. As well as there are some MCQ questions from 22 July, 22 January, as well as July 2021. Normally, most of the time, the part two questions, you have to write the differences between the data and information, right? So the marks range, they are allocating 2 to 4 marks per question, right? If it is a 2 mark, if it is a 2 marks means that's an OTQ questions or MCQ questions, and 2 to 4 marks they are allocating to the part two questions, like a short answer question, right? The highest marks they have allocated in July 2024, that's a very near paper, 4 marks. So you can understand from my exam pattern analysis, from this data and information and the differentiation, it appears in section A, right? It means the question 1, it means the OTQ questions as MCQs, as well as in section B in the question 2 for a detailed explanation about data, information, and differentiation, right? So it's consistently appearance in every 1-2 exam sessions, often asked for differences in a tabular format. It means you have to write a table like data and information. What are the differences, right? Sometimes they require some practical examples or the examples of data, examples of informations, right? So may ask state 3 differences or differentiate between the data and information. So the study priority is very critical here, because the appearance is more than half of all the exams, right? In out of the 11 exam papers, more than half these questions are coming. So now you know the importance of our learning, right? The data and information and knowledge, as well as the difference between the data and information, the first part and the second part, right? You got the idea, right? So more exam oriented approach we will do, because I'm really aiming my dears to get prize winners in our first batch, in your batch, right? So I will put my effort in that level. So please study at minimum and get high marks. That's my humble request from you, right? So now you understood the learning outcome, and we will move with the actual topics, right? So let's learn about this data and information and knowledge. Often the terms data and information are used synonymously. It means sometimes, we will, in practical world, we will use the data as well as the information, the word interchangeably. Sometimes we will say information, but actually it is a data. Sometimes actually, in fact, that is a data, but we will say see the information. So it's synonymously we are using, but however, the meaning is not the same, because we are learning that is as a subject. So the meaning of the data is something different from the information as well as from the knowledge. So understanding the data first. So this is the proper definition of the data, right? You can see the definition, my dears, here. And for the more pictorial imaginary understanding, you can see the picture also. So the data is a raw material for data processing. So an important word is here, it's a raw material. Raw material in the sense means what? In production environment, in the production environment, we call raw material as an input, right? The raw material, it can be, you know like for manufacturing of wood, manufacturing of what do you call, furnitures, the wood and the whatever the inputs they are using, that's a raw materials. So the data is a raw material for data processing. Data generates when events happen in organization. So even in the sense, it can be transactions, it can be something, anything, any events happen, we can collect the data. And the data is the low level of knowledge. What's the meaning of low level knowledge? Because it's not organized yet. It's here and there actually. You can see in the picture. So it's not going to give more insights and more information level knowledge. So it's a very low level knowledge because it is very scattered here and there, uncategorized, unorganized, entities that do not really mean anything. That is the meaning of the data, medias, right? So I hope so you're understanding. So these are just numbers and words. That is data, right? So let's say, for example, you are having a fruit stall in Candy area, right? You are selling a fruits near the Temple of the Tooth, right? In Candy, there's a Temple of the Tooth, very famous. Every day, customers come and buy some mangoes, bananas, and papayas in your fruit shop. And in your notebook, you are writing like, okay, today 10 mangoes sold, and 5 bunch of bananas sold, and 7 papaya sold. These are just numbers and words. Actually, that's data. But, in the night, you sit down, right, and you are calculating, okay, I have earned rupees 5,000 today, and which is rupees 1,000 more than yesterday. Yesterday, I have earned 1,000, but now I have earned 5,000. Now, those numbers have some meaning, right? This is actually information, right? That's information. Right. So let's proceed with our key characteristics of the data. It's very raw and unprocessed facts, unorganized, uncategorized, generated from events in organization, has no meaning by itself. That's very important. In the data, we are not going to get any meaningful, information that useful for our decision making. So you have to understand the data, the characteristics of the data are that is very raw, unprocessed facts, as well as it is unorganized and has no meaning by itself. So we cannot take any decisions, right? So those are the key characteristics. So normally, my dears, in the exams, they are using these examples actually for the understanding of data. All right. So we will use the retail environment for first example. Sales even in a supermarket generate data such as item details, customer details, discounts, and everything, right? So I'm going to highlight the data such as the item details, right? So what are the items they have sold and the customer bought, and the discounts details, as well as the transaction times. So row by row. So every transaction, it will have some transaction ID, my dears. For that transaction ID, we can trace the customer details, item details, discounts, as well as the transaction timestamps. Timestamps in the sense when the transaction happened, right? But it is actually a data. Why? Because we are not going to get any information. So, every time, you buy something at Food City, a lots of data gets created, right? Let's say you work as a cashier at Food City in Colombo Port, right? When a customer comes to a counter and the computer collects the item details, like when they scan the barcode, for example, you bought Melbourne cream cracker for rupees 180 rupees. So when they scan the barcode, so the item details informations are appear in the system. So Melbourne cream cracker for rupees 180 rupees. As well as if you have a loyalty card, right? When they scan the loyalty card with your number, for example, 45782 something, your customer details, everything will come. And also you will get a 10% of on biscuits today for the loyalty, right? As well as the transaction timestamps. For example, you bought for today, like 25th of September or 1st October, like that, with the timestamp also. So the each piece is just a fact, right? It's a fact. It means just data. It's like a piece is scattered on a table. They don't tell as much about the story, right? So what you do as a cashier, you will show milk powder, you will show bread, you will show rice, and so on. So these are individual pieces of data, but thousands of them every day. So these are data, right? I hope so you understood this. Sometimes you have to write in your examinations. As well as in an educational institution example, student admissions. Admission form contains some raw facts like the name, parent details, address, the marks you have obtained, as well as your photograph. We are processing your AAT exam applications, as well as we are processing your AAT registration also. So we are issuing a form to the students, and we are collecting your full name, your you know birth certificate front page and birth certificate back page, as well as your NIC numbers and your NIC details, as well as your home address. So we are collecting that as a data, so as an educational institute. So admission form is a point of collecting the data, right? I hope so you are getting the point. As well as in the social media analytics, my dears, data collected from social media about some target markets, right? Some company reputation and user interactions. So Instagram is very famous for gaining leads in the sense, the people who are interested in our products, right? Because Instagram, it's more influential with the user behavior. If you see some set and very set moment of reels, it will recommend you set moments. And even if you talk with your friends in the WhatsApp, according to, like, I have to join AAT and something, and again in the evening time you can come to Instagram, you will see the advertisement about AAT classes who are publishing. So they are tracking target markets and how the user is interacting with the content. That is social media analytics. So social media, Facebook's, Instagram, they are collecting the data from you. That's the data. As well as human resources, example, employees data, right? They are skill inventories. Skill inventories. I have taught you this in business management also. Skill inventories means HR department, they will have a database per employee. So what are the skills this particular employee having? So that's the data, as well as the salary information, as well as your performance management, your rating by your manager. So these are actually data. So they will process this data to information, and after that they will take decisions with the information. So please, you have to understand the definition of the data and the characteristics as well as the examples. That's very important, right? So students, the azan is going on. Give me 2 3 minutes, then I will continue the session. Right. So then let's continue with understanding information. Right. So before that, did you get the point about the data, my dears? Sham, Halina, Hisham, and Ilma Farid, and Minhaj, Shabinaya, Niruja, Shadu. Did you understand? So you must write it in a good manner. Okay. Right. And understanding the information. So understanding information in the sense, information is actually the data, but that has been cooked, organized, and made meaningful. You know, like how rice becomes biryani, our favorite dish, right? That's information. So the definition is here: information is organized or classified data, organized or classified data which has meaningful values. So the data, it doesn't have a meaning, but information actually it's having meaning for the receiver who needs it. Decisions and actions are based on information. So always we will take decisions as well as some actions based on information, not based on data, right? So information is the output of the data process, right? When we are processing our data, the output we will have this as a information, right? And the key characteristics, it's organized, it's classified data. It means we have classified the data as well as it has meaningful value, and it is used for the decision making and the result of the data processing. Just like the definition, you can give this as a key characteristic as well, right? So now let's see some examples related to this topic. And the example one in the management reporting, a report prepared to inform the sales figures to marketing manager, employees, and attendance details to human resource management, right? So a report. So report always a process data. We cannot simply give an Excel file with a bunch of rows and bunch of columns. We cannot give that to the managers. So a report prepared to inform the sales figures to the marketing manager, that's one of the data. As well as employee attendant details to the human resource managers in the good, uh, graphs as well as charts. So as a report, that is information. So management reporting is one of the example, as well as some predictive analysis, right? A graph generated by analyzing the sales of previous years and predicted the sales for the next year as well as the trends and patterns. So normally the graphs and charts are after process the information. So management reporting and predictive analysis are the examples of information. As well as let's understand the knowledge, right? So when it comes to exam frequency, my dears, the topic knowledge, it's very low direct testing. They are trying to take you the theoretical understanding, typically 2 marks if they ask, but it is very rarely asked, right? Usually part of the data, information, knowledge hierarchy question. Theoretical understanding is very sufficient and the study priority is very low. Just understand, that's very minimum sufficient, right? So let's see the definition here. The knowledge describes the collected information that is available at a particular fact or person. Knowledge describes the collected information. The important word is here collected information that is available about a particular fact or person. The knowledge of this situation makes it possible to make informed decisions as well as solve the problems, right? Let me explain this in a very detailed manner, then you can get the point what actually the meaning of the knowledge. So knowledge is, my dears, it's a information plus some experience as well as your wisdom, right? So I can guide you the information plus your experience and your wisdom, right? So we can say that at like this. For example, very skilled chef who knows not just the recipe, but when to add some extra spices and when not to. That is knowledge, right? You experience. So, the data, it's like a letters, A, B, C, D. Information, it's like a word, for example, apple, mango. It will give meaning, but A, B, or C, D, it's not going to give meaning. So if it is like that, the knowledge is like understanding the whole story and knowing what will happen next, right? That's the data to knowledge level. So the data, or let's say you know the names of the road, right? Goal road, duplication road, baseline road. That is data. Information is something like, okay, you know which road is 5 kilometer, which road is 8 kilometer. So you can take some decision about your route, right? When you are traveling, right? But knowledge is something right? That at 5 p.m., baseline road has very terrible traffic. So even though goal road is very longer, but it is faster. So that's the wisdom, your experience, right? That's the wisdom comes from your experience. That is knowledge, right? So collected information that is available about a particular fact or a person. So the key characteristic is the collection of information influences thinking and action, enables information decision making, requires skills and experience to process the information. So I will give you a list by list characteristics. So this is actually a collection of information and it influences the thinking as well as your actions. It enables some informed decision making. It requires skills as well as experience to process the information at the further level, right? So collection of information means what? Collection of information means it's built from many pieces of information, not one piece of information, right? So the influences thinking and action. What this means? It changes how we do the things, right? Because of this knowledge, you are doing something in a different manner, right? And it enables informed decision making. So it helps us to make some smart choices. Decision making, can you remember from business management topics? As well as it requires skills and experience to process the information. You can't just memorize, you must understand the things to get knowledge. So data is something different, information is something different, as well as the knowledge is something different. Also, you are getting my points. So how knowledge is generated? Right. So the data is collected first. Then the data is processed into information second. Then that information is analyzed with skills and experience. Then the knowledge is created. So we can make this as a step-by-step approach, right? Right. First, the data should be collected. So I can have this as a first step. We have to collect the data as well as we have to process this data into information. So the second step we can create from this, we have to process the data into information, and the information should be analyzed with your skills, with your experience, right? And after that only we can create something called knowledge. So knowledge is more powerful than the data, than the information, right? So now I hope so you got the point how data is generated, as well as how this knowledge is applied nowadays. The human decision making, we are applying the knowledge in human decision making, as well as machine decision making, artificial intelligence. Why? Because the artificial intelligence, the AI, they are having billions of parameters. It means billions of pieces of information. So they are taking some decisions and making some reports because they have the knowledge, because already it's trained. So in problem solving, in strategic planning, we are applying this knowledge, right? So you must know the theoretical aspect only about this knowledge, right? So I hope so you understood. Let me tell you one example, how this knowledge is creating, right? So you can get some points better here. So the collection of data is sometimes, if you run a small restaurant, every day you write in your notebook, right? Okay, Monday I got 45 customers, Tuesday 38 customers, Wednesday 52 customers, Thursday 41 customers, like that. So this is data, just numbers. And after that, how you are creating the information with this data, right? For example, let's say, again, right, you got some degrees at universities, and you are creating a chart like a restaurant traffic analysis. So now you got the pattern from the 7 days customer arrival data. Nowadays, weekdays, okay, I can get 44 customers per day, and weekends average I can get 108 customers per day, and weekend business is 145% higher than my weekdays business, and Friday it shows 35% increase compared to in other days. So this is information. So you have the numbers. Now you transform that numbers into some meaningful information. That is information, right? So data processed into information, and after that, even you can build some knowledge. Now you understand, okay, from the tourist visit, right? So let's say you are near to Galle, okay? Tourists visit to Galle Fort mostly on weekends. That's what you have more, sales in weekends. And the local people come on Fridays after Juma prayer. That's what the Friday it shows 35% increase. That is knowledge, my dear. So weekdays are mostly local workers' lunchtime. That's what you are having the business. So now your information is built as a knowledge. Did you understand, my dears, how the knowledge is created? Then you will take some decision based on the knowledge. Sometimes, okay, I'm going to have more customers on weekends, so I have to hire two extra workers. And in Friday, I have to prepare special biryani for Friday lunch because after Juma prayers, the people are coming. And I have to offer some quick lunch packets for weekday workers. And I have to create some tourist friendly menu in English for the weekends because tourist people are coming. That is knowledge. So the knowledge is coming from the information. The information is the numbers and patterns. And after that, your experience, years of running your restaurant, your understanding of customer behavior. Now you are taking some smart business decisions. That is knowledge, Mary. Did you get my point? How the knowledge is created? Give me 2 minutes and let me know if you have any questions. Right. So I hope so. You got the point about information as well as knowledge as well as data. Now, let's see some applications are here. As I told you earlier, human decision making, machine decision making, problem solving, strategic planning. We are applying the knowledge, right? So very important is as per our analysis and everything, you must know, you know, the differences to write in tabular format. What are the differences between the data and information, right? So now let's move to that particular exam, difference between the data and information in the high exam value area. I have mentioned this is a high exam value area. You must remember and understand and please create a knowledge about this difference between the data and information because half of the exam papers, the question is there, right? So now you can see the meaning, the basis of difference is this is raw, very unrefined fact and figures used as inputs in computing systems, used as inputs in computing the systems, right? So you can understand that. And here, processed outputs that helps researchers carry out a proper analysis. It means sometimes, let's say in Sri Lankan terms, you sold 50 items today. That's data. But information is processed output. Let's say you processed your input and you got an output. Let's say your sales today is, for example, let's say rupees 25,000. That means 20% higher than yesterday. So it's the best day of the month. That is information. As well as available as individual units with raw material only. There's no inherent meaning. Okay. Give me 1 second. Right. There's no inherent meaning. So it's like, let's say individual three-wheeler trips, like say Colombo Fort and 2 kilometer rupees 200. That is, individual units, but it's a result of process data containing groups of data depicting logical meaning. Sometimes, you can understand from your daily summary, right? Okay, I made some 25 trips today and I have covered 45 kilometer total and I have earned rupees 5,500 as a profitable, right? So that is information. And dependency is not reliant on information, depends on the source of collection, right? It means data comes first from customers, sensors, forms. So data is comes first. There's no reliant on any information. It depends on the source of collection. But actual information is coming from the data, right? It's derived from the data. It means information comes later after we have processed the data. You can't have information without the data. Like you can't have the hoppers, right, without flow. Right? As well as peculiarity, watch by itself, categorized as qualitative or quantitative variables. It means data alone doesn't tell a story, but specific in nature provides news as well as meaning. Information tells you what's happening and why you should care. And in measurement term, measurable in bits and bytes, numbers, letters, character, but it's measurable in meaningful terms, right? Let's say, you know, in data, you can say the file size is 2.5 MB of the customer records. But information, you say, I have records of 5,000 customers with complete purchase history. That is information, it's measurable. And representation of the data is usually from tabular and data trees and graphs. We can show that. But information is always about ideas, thoughts, and the references and language, right? Let's say, the representation of the data is like in an Excel spreadsheet with rows and columns of numbers. But information, like a manager's report, your country branch is performing very excellently. You should expand it. So that is thoughts, references, language. And the method of use is collected to be useful, and information is when processed into reliable information it become useful. That's a method of use. It means what? It means, my dears, we collect data with the hope it will be useful in some day, right? But you know actually becomes useful when we turn that it is an information only. And decision making of no use in a raw form. We can't use the data in a raw form, useless for the decision making, but very useful in the decision making as a information. And level of knowledge is, it provides a very low level of knowledge but comprise the second level of knowledge. It means a higher capacity. As well as confidentiality, it belongs to organization, it cannot be short, right? Because the raw data is often very private because customer name is there, phone number is there, but information sometimes be shared because that is very statistics, very trends without revealing the private details. And the design not designed for any specific need or user, right? Data gets, you know, it is designed for very specific need, but it's specific to user needs because it's irrelevant. We will eliminate some facts, some data. And deterioration deteriorates with time. It means, data gets old and we can stale quickly, but good information and insights and understanding, it will remain for useful for, years. And the type it can be qualitative as well as quantitative. The data comes in very simple terms, numbers, words. But information, you know it can be presented in many creative ways depending on who needs it, right? As well as we can say the units, bits, nibbles, byte, kb, mb, gb, dp. But it's all about quantity, time, voltage. Practically, we can say the database is 500 mb, that is data. But information, the database contains all customer orders from last 5 years. That is actually the information. So data is measured in computer terms, information is measured in human terms. So this is actually, a very technical explanation, but you must know this, at least 4 to 5 differences, right? Otherwise, it's very hard to crack the exams. More than 55 percentage, there's a chance you will get questioned to differentiate the data and information like this table, right? I hope so. You got the point. And here, here's the simple meaning, my dears. The same information is here. Data is available as individual units, but information with raw materials only with no inherent meanings, and information is result of a processed data. So the same thing I have included here. Informations are very specific, but data are very watch, as well as, you can see pictorially, measurable in bits and bytes, but it's measurable in meaningful terms. As well as, data is presented in a tabular format, but information is about idea, thoughts, and reference language. And methods of use, it's collected as a data, but we have to process, right? So these are the methods of use, as I explained. And decision making also, we know the data is no use to take some decisions, but information is very useful in decision making. As well as in terms of level of knowledge is also, data provides a very low level of information. It means low level of knowledge information, but information is like a second level of knowledge. And confidentiality also, I said, data actually belongs to the organization because it has some private information, but information, you can share it publicly because it's all about statistic. You are not going to share very private information, right? As well as design, data is not designed for any specific or need of user, because just we are collecting, but information is for specific user case. As well as deterioration, as I mentioned earlier. And types is data has sometimes qualitative as well as quantitative, but always this information is varied as per the user requirement. Sometimes they need qualitative data, qualitative information, so sometimes they will ask quantitative information. As well as, data, we can measure in bits, nibbles, bytes, kb, mb, but information is all about the quantity, time, voltage, the reference, and ideas like that. So please understand the table. That table is very important for your examination purpose also. And let's move to the characteristic of quality information, right? This is also one of the important area, my dears. I have analyzed these parts. This characteristic of quality information, the exam frequency rate is 4 times in 11 exams. It means out of your 11 papers available, 4 times it appeared. It means 36 percentage probability. Also, plus 2 additional related questions also there related to characteristic of quality information. Normally, they will ask, identify and explain the characteristics and describe the characteristics, as well as some short answer forms, and as well as some MCQ questions, right? So sometimes they will ask some specific characteristics to explain, right? So the marks range, it's between 2 to 10 marks. Averagely, you can get 3 marks. The highest marks in January 2022 for 10 marks. So exam paper pattern I have analyzed, like usually they will ask for 3 to 5 characteristics. So you have to remember at least 3 to 5 characteristics. Sometimes they ask all 8 characteristics. May ask, for example, for examples with each characteristic. For each characteristic, you have to write some examples. Can be MCQ or very detailed explanation. As I mentioned earlier, January 2022 had very comprehensive 10-mark questions covering this in detail. And the study priority is very high because you have to memorize all 8 characteristics with examples and explanation. So I'm giving you the importance also in each topic so you can get ready for the examination, right? So for information to be useful, right, we are talking about information, okay? The information is the processed facts, processed data. So to make our information to be useful for the decision makers, the persons who are going to take some decisions by using our information, it must have some certain characteristics, my dears. So usually we have 8 key characteristics of good informations, right? So we will see these 8 characteristics. We can identify that as, reliability, timeliness, accessibility, presentation, cost effective. There are a lot of characteristics. So the first one is understandable, right? Our information should be understandable, my dears. Otherwise, we can't have that as an right. So I can say the definition is here. Information must be understood by the receiver so it will be interpreted correctly. It means information must be very clear as well as simple, right? Just say you are giving some directions in singular to someone who doesn't know English. So, yes, their language is singular. You have to talk with them singular, right? If they don't understand English or Tamil, you have to talk in singular. So you can't talk in English with the people who have no idea about English, right? You can't speak like that. So information must be understood by the receiver so it will be interpreted very correctly, right? So these are the requirements for the information if it is to be understandable. So you can see, clearly presented using summarizes or charts, right? So we can say one, as well as concise and focused, the second one, and communicated using appropriate mediums like email, as well as, sometimes it can be a printed report or sometimes it can be a presentation. So understandable means clearly we have to present, right? Clearly we have to present it in a summarized charts like this charts. Sometimes we have to very concise, very shortly we have to give some focused informations, and sometimes we have to choose a very good medium like email to print to send that report, and sometimes we have to give a presentation, and sometimes we have to provide us a in a printed form. So these are the requirements. So the receiver should understand. Sometimes if they don't know how to use the email, you have to print and give it. So the best practice is here, develop templates used consistently. Develop templates used consistently throughout the organization. So users become very familiar with seeing the information in a similar style, right? That's a best practice to give information that is more understandable. So in simple term ideas, you have to provide your information in a very summarized manner, as well as, if you can, please use charts and very shortly, not very too wordy, right? Don't use paragraphs and paragraphs because managers and CEOs, they don't have time to read that. They have to have a sharp information and they have to take the decision. And you have to use email or printed report or presentation as your form, whatever, right? That is something understandable, right? You have to make the things understandable. And let's move to the relevant. That's the second characteristics of quality information. So definition is here. The information should be pertinent and meaningful to the decision maker within their area of responsibility, right? It means, my dears, the information should be useful for the decision you need to make, right? Then only we can say that is a relevant. Should be pertinent and meaningful to the decision making. It means relevant. We can't use the relevant word here to explain relevancy. So that's what I'm using the word pertinent, right? It means it should be relevant with them. So the information should be pertinent and meaningful to the decision maker and within their area of responsibility. We cannot give marketing report to the finance manager or the bank reconciliation report to the marketing manager because those are irrelevant for both, right? Right. So you have to provide the information that is very relevant for their particular authority within their decision making authority, right? So if you want to cook rice, you have to get the recipe for the rice, right? Not the recipe to make the pasta. So the information should be very pertinent and meaningful, right? That's the definition. So the example is here, a credit manager, right? A credit manager deciding whether to grant a credit to a customer because he has to decide whether we are going to grant a credit. Credit means loan to a customer, would use relevant information. So he needs relevant information like customers' financial statements, credit history, not irrelevant information like customers' organization charts. They don't need the organization chart. They need to evaluate whether they are financially worthy to provide the loan. That is relevancy, my dears. Right? I hope so. You are getting my point. So the credit manager will approve the loan if they're satisfied with the financial statements, not with the organizational chart, right? That is relevance. Even though, when I'm teaching you the content, the material, the notes, the guidance I'm giving you, it should be relevant to your examination. Otherwise, you are wasting your time as well as I'm wasting your time. If I'm giving some notes here and there from universities and other books and these books, if it is not relevant to get enough marks in your examination, as an institute we are failing, as a student we are choosing a wrong institute, right? So we have to provide relevant information. So the relevance is one of the good quality of good information. As well as a good information, it should be complete. It should have the completeness. So the information should contain all facts necessary for the decision maker, right? Whatever the fact he needs to take this decision, he must be provided to satisfactory level to solve the problem at hand. That is completeness, right? We must provide complete information. Information should have all the pieces needed, right? So you have to provide all the information, every reasonable effort it should be made to obtain the complete information. So your information sometimes we cannot always be 100% complete, but you have to provide a very reasonable completeness. You need to collect the data from various sources. That's the completeness. So I'm having key points here. The key points when you have to consider when you are making some completeness, nothing important should be left out, right? If it is an important matter, you can't left out. As well as every reasonable effort should be made to obtain the complete information. As I mentioned earlier, information cannot always be 100% complete, right? But may need to collect from variety of sources. Sometimes if it is 100% not complete, you have to collect from other sources as well. So you have to have these checklists, the key important points to make your information complete. So I'm giving you one example here. So the example is this. If an organization receives information about costs of supplying a fleet of cars for the sales force, incomplete information would only include purchase cost, while complete information would include purchase cost plus servicing plus maintenance cost. You got it right. So let's say, if you're buying something and a car, like a car, if they have only the purchase cost, that's an incomplete information. In the invoice, they must mention the cost and the service and the maintenance terms and everything, right? That's the complete information. So you must have the complete information with you always. So that is the third characteristics. As well as the fourth characteristic is information must be accessible or available in the desired form when it is needed. Right? Readily accessible. That's the important word here. So information must be readily accessible in the very desired form. That is availability. That also one of the most important, because like a water from the tap, it's very instant and very easy. Like that, the information must be readily accessible, whatever the form they want, right? So the key points are here. Advances technology have made information more accessible than ever, and must be available in appropriate format, must be available when we need it. Sometimes we need PDF, sometimes we need Word, sometimes we need Excel copies, right? So it should be available in the format the manager or the decision maker need, right? So that's about availability. So example is here, every health record system should allow record access 24 hours a day, regardless of the format in which the record is stored. That is availability, right? So that is availability, my dears, and reliable. Reliable is one of the good characteristic of good information. So you must know this. Information should be trustworthy, accurate, consistent with facts, and verifiable. That's the actual meaning of reliability. Reliability means we have to rely on that particular information to take some decision. So information should be very trustworthy. Like, if when you are weighing the scale, that always shows the correct weight, not sometimes correct, sometimes wrong. No, it should be reliable, right? So inadequate or incorrect information, generally it will lead to very decisions of poor quality, right? Let's say you imagine a doctor treating you based on the wrong test results. Think about it. It's not very reliable, right? Or a pilot flying based on the wrong weather information, or a business owner ordering some stock based on the wrong sales figures. Then it is going to be disaster for the business. So the impact is here, inadequate or incorrect information generally leads to decisions of very poor quality. If you are using very reliable source of information, then you are going to take decisions that is, make your business fall behind other businesses, right? So the examples of reliabilities are, I'm having some examples here. Sales figures that have not been adjusted for returns and refunds are not reliable, right? You have the total sales, but the total sales they didn't adjust or deduct the total returns or some refunds. So it's not reliable. We cannot rely on that sales figure. Sometimes they are telling we have made a sale of 10 million, but actually when you go and check the refunds and the returns, that's only 1 million rupees of worth of sale. So the not reliable information, right? That is, and the requirements for the reliability is something like this. You must have the accurate data and consistent with the facts and verifiable with the sources you have collected, and the process is very trustworthy to get that information, right? So that is one of the characteristics of good information, and as well as the definition of concise other characteristics. So information should be to the point and just enough, no more, no less. That's very important. We are not going to give you more information, so you will get confused, right? As well as not less. Let's say, you know, you are saying, okay, I come at 3 p.m. Instead of a 10-minute explanation about a time, you say, I will come at 3 p.m. No need of 10-minute explanation about the time, right? So the concept is bounded rationality. Concept bounded rationality. There is a concept, my dears. The limits of the thinking process, which cannot short out and process large amounts of information. Right? If you are having more information, you can't process it. Your brain has limits. You can only process, so much information at once. There are some limits in our brain, right? Let's imagine trying to drink a water from, or a fire hose. Too much water, too fast. You can't drink it, right? You will just get wet and waste the water. Same with the information is applicable. If I'm going to give more and more and more and more notes, too much information, your brain get overload. You can't process everything. You will miss very important points. You will make some mistakes. You will get confused and tired. So, the key points to make concise information that is going to be very relevant, as well as that's going to give you a characteristic. So too much information is a burden on management. When you are preparing reports, don't give irrelevant information, and cannot be processed on time, cannot be processed in time and accurately. Information should be focused and relevant. Please avoid information overload, right? We have to give a very focused and relevant information. Please avoid over information, right? So these are the key points. You have to create concise information. When you are considering concise information, these are the key points. As well as the seventh one is all about timeliness. That is also one of the key characteristic of information. So information must be delivered at the right time, at the right place, to the right person, right? That is one of the important, you know characteristics. So because, like medicine, when you are sick, you have to take the medicine, right? Not medicine after you have already healed from the process, healed from the sick. Like that, information must be delivered at the right time, in the right place, to the right person, right? Like we cannot give premature information, right? So the problems with the poor timing is, here, premature information can become obsolete or forgotten by the time it's needed, and delayed information results in missed opportunities, right? I hope so. You can get the point. So, the timely information, the objective is here, reduce the time gap between the collection of the data and the presentation of information to the decision making as possible. Collect the data, process it, and give it as a report, information, right? That is timely. So the impact is very crucial for the decisions can be delayed because proper information is not available in the time, resulting in the missed opportunity. Sometimes we have to miss the opportunities because you didn't give the information in a timely manner. So if you are going to give a good information for a decision maker, it should be timely, as well as cost effectively. Cost effective means the cost of gathering the data, and processing it into information must be weighed against the benefits drive. Cost versus benefit analysis, right? We have studied this in the business management. What's the meaning of this? Simply, my dears, the information, it should not cost more than it's worth, right? You don't need to spend rupees 100,000 to find out how to serve rupees 50,000. Waste of time and resource. So the cost of gathering the data and processing it into meaningful information must be weighed against the benefits you are going to get, right? So the information is not desirable if the solution is more costly than the problem, right? So you have to consider that. So example is here. An organization wants to commission a market survey on a new product. Cost of market survey is $50,000, but forecast initial profit is only $30,000. So decision should be to use less costly source of information, even if it may give the inferior information, right? So if you want to do the market survey, it will cost 50,000 for the marketing agency, but you can get less benefit from that, less than $10,000. So you don't need that information. So the cost benefit analysis is something we have to gather the data costs, right? If we want to collect the data, it will incur some cost, right? So you have to gather the data cost and process the data cost and compare your expected benefits with your informed decisions, right? So these are the 8 characteristics. Please remember these 8 characteristics, and I have provided examples for each characteristics, right? So definitely they will test you in the examination. So those are the characteristic of good quality information, right? So I think, guys, I hope so today class is good to go with this information. So I will provide you the notes and other analysis, and after that we will continue. Hopefully in the next session I will finish this chapter 1. We are not going to spend much time. We will do the theories and we will do the past papers, and I will give you the strategies, I will give you the analysis. Rest is with you. I will guide you for the 80 plus marks, right? Then you have to process. I cannot learn for you, no. I will teach you the way, the strategies, the method that will work to get 80 plus, 90 plus marks. So you have to study and get the marks. That's with you. Okay. And thank you guys. See you in the next classes. Have a great day. Thank you all. Bye. See you.